In 2021, I moved to Spain and I underwent this big shift in identity. And with being a bit confused about my career path and what I wanted to pursue professionally, I shook things up completely and I decided I'm gonna go to Spain, I'm gonna teach English, and I'm gonna go live in this other country. So for 2 years, I lived in Spain. I learned Spanish from zero, and I built a new life from scratch during these 2 years. I built a new friend group. I got there not knowing anybody. I built a friend group from zero. I lived in another culture, a little different way of doing things. I learned this new language, and I uprooted this identity of who I always had been living in the United States, and I went and I formed this new identity of living in a foreign country. And not only did this period bring me massive clarity for my life direction and what I wanted to do in general, but it also set me up for my desire of making money online specifically. So it set me up from the things that I've done over the past number of years because of this experience here. Everyone has this wall of fire that they need to run through. Everyone has this shift of identity that they need to undergo. And whether you're working on online sales, whether you're an entrepreneur, or maybe you are thinking about moving to a different country and working online, for example, you need to experience this shift just once. The big shift just once to see how it works. It's that one shift of you being aware that there's the person you've always been and there's the person you want to become. There's the person you've always been, but there's this thing that you want to do. There's this destination you want to go. There's this person you want to be. It's that shift you need to experience just once to see how it works. And this shift set me up over the past few years here for what I'm doing now and the things that I've worked on over the past number of years. Over the past 2-3 years now. But when I first arrived in Spain, this shift right here, the person you've always been, the person you want to become. When I first arrived in Spain, when I first made this trip, I was faced with one of the most difficult months of my life when I first got there. Because after all, I lived in the United States for my previous 23 years of existence, right? I lived in the United States, I spoke English, I lived in this culture in the USA, had a group of friends, went to college, just stayed in the area of my small town in Minnesota, and that's all I knew. Okay? Now I uprooted, went to this new country, and I didn't know Spanish, I didn't know anybody, didn't know much about the city, and it's like the rug got pulled out from underneath me. And I had to form this new identity. I had to become this new person who could do all these things, who could speak Spanish, who could meet people from scratch, who could build a new life, new commitments, a new routine, live in a new culture in a different country, and become one with that. But everything took on so much more meaning now when I arrived. Everything took on so much more meaning now when I arrived, because even the grocery store was this intimidating task, right? Even going to the grocery store was this task that was scary, because I didn't want to be a problem, right? Going to the grocery store, the post office, doing paperwork for my visa stuff. It was like, I don't know the language, so something's gonna happen. Something's gonna go wrong. I'm gonna mess something up. I'm gonna be a problem. Those are the feelings, right? So you can see how this aligns perfectly with whatever you're working on. With making money online, digital marketing, entrepreneurship, online sales. There's this identity, there's this wall of fire that you gotta run towards, you gotta run through and experience that big shift. You just need to experience it once. And this is what I was feeling here with my time arriving in Spain. But this was just the first month, right? When I arrived there, within the first couple weeks, it hit me that it was time to find an apartment. And again, didn't speak the language, didn't know anybody, and the apartment finding process was pretty brutal, to say the least. But fortunately, over the first couple weeks when I got there, I met a friend. He was from India, my best friend, and my roommate from my time living in Spain. And I met this friend within the first couple weeks of getting there, and we searched together. We searched for an apartment together. We would hop from Airbnbs to hostels, living in different places. And every day for over a month, over that first month, we would get up and we would walk the streets. We would make calls, we would make connections to try to find an apartment. And this process went on and on like this, right? And the weeks went by and no results. Day after day, walking, day after day, weeks, no results. Yes, we were talking to people. Yes, we were looking at places, but no results. And the pressure was getting heavy now. And I felt myself in the beginning of this identity shifting process. There was this person that I always knew, this way of being in the United States, everything I've ever known. And now this completely new way of doing things that I had to experience and go through. And over a month went by, and we eventually found an apartment, got set up greatly. And that was just the beginning. That was just the first month. And then over the next 4, 5, 6 months, I experienced a mix of those feelings in so many different ways, so many different emotions. And this major shift from the person who I always knew and the person I had to become to conquer this experience and build this new life for myself in this new country, speaking Spanish, learning Spanish. I needed to go through that identity shift, all those feelings, to get to the other side of that. Right? This wall of fire that I had to go through these first 6 months. It reminds me a lot of when I first got started with digital marketing online, and now the coaching that I'm doing now. You need to experience that one big shift for yourself just one time. You need to become aware of the person you've always been, and you need to clearly identify that person you want to become. What does that look like for you? Because when I arrived in Spain, it was time. There was no backing out. There was no backing out of that. I was in a new country by myself, and I just had to figure it out. That's the situation. That's the attitude you want when you get clear on what this new person looks like. You need to make the connection of who is this person? What is that? What are you shifting into? Make that connection strong by creating clarity. Okay? Because when I arrived in Spain, there was no backing out of it. I arrived in Spain, it was time to look for an apartment. I had to find an apartment, I had to learn Spanish, I had to meet people, I had to build this thing day by day, week after week. And I reached a point where I felt the script flip for me. The current that I was swimming upstream, the river in which I was swimming upstream, it switched and took me downstream. The current flipped for me after 5-6 months of experiencing this. And I felt things start moving in my favor. And I felt myself flip the script and shift into this new identity. So there's this wall of fire, there's this shift that you need to experience just once to see how it works. That's going to set you up for the things you want to do down the line.